Built our background, we have got through that ugly middle layer stage, and it is time now to add some focal points to our little journal block. So I have got some ephemera, I've got some stamps, I've got some sentiment stickers, I've got some other stickers, I have got some collage. So we are going to finish off these little blocks with their focal points. Hi everyone, Jane here again. Thank you for watching today, and if you've been watching all the process for this, well done. I hope you've played along and you're enjoying it. I hope it's been useful, and I hope today will just be that finishing touch to get to the end of our little journaling panels here. If you are new, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Thank you so much for your support. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, every share, they're all really, really appreciated. So thank you. So today we are at the point now where we have created 4 blocks. If you haven't seen the previous videos, I will link them both down in the description box below. Please do check down there if you want to know what I have used today in this video, and what I've used to get to this point will be in the previous videos. However, please don't be put off if you haven't got exactly what I'm using. If I'm using a certain paint, you can use another paint, you can use pencils, you can use acrylic paint, you can use whatever you like. I would much prefer it if you used what you have, because that is the best place to start with what you already have and what you already enjoy using. So that is what I would mostly say about that. But today I've grabbed a few different bits. This is probably going to be a shorter video. The middle part was the longest of the videos, I do believe. Now I thought I have got, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who invested in Tim Holtz paper dolls. Now, I've only ever bought one set, and I know other people buy lots more, but even though I only bought one set, and I have used them, I have to say, it's not that I don't use them, I have got all these left. I've got some other things in the back there. So I thought that a little paper doll would be nice on one of these. I'm not really sure now, looking at them, what would go. Now, I had thought that a little person in this one would be quite cool, so that could literally just be a finishing touch. Actually, I quite like that. That was good pulling out there, wasn't it? I wanted it to be a little one. The thing with the paper dolls is they're just basically quite tough board. They have these vintage treasures. They are a bit shiny, but you can I presume, to be honest, I've never really coloured them, but you can colour, I've seen people colour in on them. You can add like embossing glazes and all sorts on them. I tend to just use them as is. But they have different sizes in the pack, and they have different sort of group, like, well, the one up, I don't know if they all do. This is probably one of the older ones. It had 107 pieces in. So, and they have different sizes, different ages, different ethnicities, different like groups. So you might have one, you might have pairs, you might have family groups, you have all sorts of different things in there. But you know, they're quite cool. Obviously they're not something I reach for regularly, I would say. I do tend to use them if I'm doing something a bit more vintagey. I don't use them otherwise. So I think we're going to have that one. I think it looks a little bit lost there. We might add something to that. I'm thinking one of these two, they're both quite flat ones. I'm thinking for some stickers. Now, these I bought in The Range, which is a shop in the UK, which is reasonably inexpensive. And I was just thinking, I've got adding some little stars in it and nothing much more. So I've got stars on that one. Do you know why I bought this pack? I think it was either like $1.99 or something like that. But I got it because I did like this pressed flower look that was in here, and it had some quite cool sort of stickers that I thought could be useful if I was wanted something quick. I quite like the people in there. But there's also some little stars on this one. I think it's a sticker book that's for planners. But this is the other thing. Don't just treat things like they market them to you for. So I often will look at things that are not really aimed at art journaling. I look at things that are in the more of the fine art world. I look at things that are for the scrapbooking community. I look at things that are for planners. And if I think there's something in there that I can use, I will use it, because, you know, it's only us putting that limitation on there. There's some quite nice sort of sentiments in here as well. But I mostly was looking for the little... They're not easy to get off though, I have to say that much. They're like a plasticky thing, so I can't even get them off. Let me see if these ones will work better. See, I'm thinking these might be quite nice on here with the little stars. Oh, they don't want to come off, do they? Oh, for goodness sake, this is a bad idea. One reason why you might not want to use something like this, I know. Let's get my pokey tool and see. Let's try this one instead. I can see where the edge is. They are. It's because they're quite flimsy almost, you know, quite small. Now, which one are we thinking? Let me put one over here. Do you know what I think? They'll look nicer over here. Let's put a few of these on here. So this is, your focal points don't have to be, you know, in your face if you don't want them to be. I've got quite a lot going on already, so, you know, just a few finishing touches. I'd say focal points. You could view this not as focal points, but as finishing touches. Let's put one here. If I get at all croaky today, I apologise. I think it's hay fever. I've just took a hay fever tablet, so hopefully it won't send me to sleep on it. But I'm very sniffly and croaky. Right, let's have one maybe here. Them three might just be enough. Have we got any words on here that... No, they're just months of the year. That's not much. That's not much use. There is another page in here, though. I do remember that's got... They're all like different occasions. This one. Best day ever. Hooray, it's your birthday. Congratulations. It's time to travel. No, these are not looking like... Live the life you love, though. That's quite nice. Take a breath. A reader lives 1,000 lives. I think these, a lot of these are linked to reading, so it's probably... Oh no, and they're all like lots of... Create beautiful things. Haven't they got that in the gold? I have used one. Oh no, I've used two. Do more of what you love. That's a good one. That's a good art journaling one, isn't it? Do you know what I could do with... I can easily take that. I was going to say, because it's right at the top, it's really difficult to... Do more. Where should I put it? This is the other thing, and then I have to make a decision about is I do like my sentiments and things to be coming from somewhere to somewhere. I quite like that too. Oh, is that wonky? Let's have a check and see if that will come. Oh, it's a good thing sometimes with sticks. Now, sometimes I do, you will often see me stick my sentiments, stickers, things that have already got stickiness on. I'm just going to have to lift this up. Whoops, you fell off. I think I've made that more wonky than it was, to be honest. I'm trying to go over that little white bit there. This is also, when you're sticking on your finishing touches, it's a good point at which you can go, oh, I didn't like that bit there. Let's stick it over that. Right, so that's that one, I think, finished. So you could seal them in. You could add a bit of like matte medium over the top just to make sure that's not going to live. It's in my mixed media journal. I'm not, book, I should say. I'm not going to worry too much. So that's using the stickers. So stickers, you know, you can get stickers fairly inexpensively. They're not, you know, something that's going to break the bank. The other thing I thought was I have got, see now I'm confused because I was going to put, I don't think I can have him on there. I think I wanted a butterfly or something maybe on here then. He might be better here with his little because I feel that's a bit more industrial-y, and he looks like he could be from like a vintagey industrial-y. That might have to be sealed, because I do feel that, because they're probably not the best of stickers, they may rise up. Ooh, I've got the, I have to say, these are something I do use a lot, but you may have other books that have the same sort of ideas. You may have other images. This is the Maremi Small Art Fairies in Bloom. I picked this one out because I thought a butterfly, and then I was trying to work out, I love butterflies, this is the trouble, but I want one that's within the colour scheme. Or a flower. Would a flower go with that though? This is the question. So you are seeing this in real thinking time. See, oh look, you've got little clouds. Ooh, that'd be quite cool. They're cute, but they're not the colour scheme. I'm still trying to stick to my colour scheme. That's got a bit of that in the back. It's got a bit of it. Oh, maybe that one. Let's oops, that's going off there. Let's just cut that bit out. Just think that might just be there. Now you don't have to just have one focal point. Or finishing touch. I'm just mostly, because they are quite small areas, I am just could be quite nice. I have a thing about butterflies. That's the thing. What's that little birdie there? No, too fluffy. Too. I think I'm going to go with the butterfly. So let's pop the book down there. I hope I still got my book in the right place, because I realised that I did slightly move it, didn't I? Now for this one, because I want to stick this direct to the page, it's not going to be raised up. I'm going to cut it right up to the line, which is what I tend to do. Yeah, I see. I was thinking that was going to go there, but then I don't think the butterfly would go here. I don't. Oh, it might go there. No, but I want to stick it sort of flat, and this has got a lot of texture with the texture paste, so it could have probably gone on there, couldn't it? But too late, I've done that one on there now. The good thing about art and craft is that even if you do it and you think, oh, I wish I'd done that instead, do you know, I'm going to cut this antennae off, sorry. I can't cut round antennae. Not today. If I was leaving a border, I would probably be more likely. You can always draw things back in. What was I saying? Forgotten what. Oh yeah, if you think, oh, I wish I'd done that instead, you can go and, you know, do another page. Do that. And when you do things, I think the more you do, the more ideas you get. So creativity breeds creativity. I truly believe that, because I do find sometimes I can be thinking, oh, not so much with my art journaling actually, but I do. I used to do cards for design teams, as samples. I do make cards for magazines as commissions for their magazines to show how to make certain cards. And sometimes I can sit and think, especially as you're usually being sent product that you might not necessarily have chosen yourself, so it's not always like your first instinct. But I find that as soon as I sit down and I start making something, it sparks further ideas. So even though I might be thinking, oh, I really have no clue what I'm doing with this, you know, but as soon as I start, it will give me more ideas. Now, I don't know if that's even going to stand out enough on that. Let me have a look. Would it be better on here? I think it would be better here, wouldn't it? And that would be better there. And it could go right in the middle, or right here. I think that would be better. Yeah, I'm preferring that there. At the moment, everything's heading to the right hand side. I don't know, I think that's a thing I do. I think I do tend to go for the right hand. So I mean, I could do it like that, and I think a sentiment just coming out from there. Now, what I often do when I do things like collage like this, I will shadow around with ink and things. I don't want to do that today, but what I could do now is if I wanted, I'm having a think on the hoof here, that to stand out a bit more. I'm trying to think what I've got. I'm thinking that I might put it onto, do I want to put it on a little bit of black? Is that going to be too much? Oh no, rather than put it on black, I think that would just be too much. What I will do is I will though get my black brush Unipin, and I'm just going to go around the edges. I often do this when I cut things out because I don't like that white edge. You know, it's personal taste. It's just something that I personally don't like. If I'm sticking things really flat to things, I don't worry about it as much because you generally can't see it if it's flat. You know, if it's really stuck to the paper, because it will blend in. But if it's going to be a little bit raised up like it's going to be on here, then you will possibly see that. Now, you don't have to do this with a pen. You could do this with, you know, blending a bit of ink around it, or, you know, anything you have really. I tend to use one of these pens just because it's easy. The only thing I would say is do be a little bit careful with your pens doing this, because I have had pens get a little bit damaged because I'm sort of doing it down the side like this. It can sort of dig into your pen and cause it to get damaged. So I mean, I'm not worried. These Unipin pens, I have to say, of all the fine liner pens, I know a lot of people use the micron pens. I've never really got on with them for some reason. I'm not quite sure why, but these ones, these Unipins, I really like. But you know, you've got to find what works for you, and this is a thing as well. It's like, if people are saying, oh well, I always use this because I think it's the best, just because it's best for them doesn't mean it's best for you. You've got to sort of pick what works for you. Like, people love Prismacolor pencils. I can't stand Prismacolor pencils because I'm heavy-handed and I break them. So I like Polychromos because they are a much harder pencil. They'll put up with me going like that and then hurting my hands. But never mind. Right, so I think that I want something though in the background of that. Now, you know what? I did have meant to get another pot of water, but I haven't. No, it's not in there. Let me have a look over here. Here we go. So I have this is my bag of textures, which I find really handy. Now, I said I wasn't going to add black, but I'm thinking just a little bit of black thread. That one I can't find the end of because I think it's a new one. Let's use this one. So I generally have black and white thread because that's brilliant underneath things. I have a little bit of this sisal. I have some gauze or cheesecloth. I have some tissue paper. That's it, I think, in there. So they're just for if I want to add a little bit of texture underneath, usually underneath collage type images. It just helps to sometimes break up the background from your foreground. So this is what your focal points. If it's going to be a focal point, that's the point of it. It needs to stand out from the background. You know, that's its whole point. Now I've just torn off some thread, and I could just put a little circle of it there. And what that does then, it's like it's giving a little frame. So you could do this if you had little cardboard frames. If you have die cuts and you die cut a frame, you could do this as well. But then, because I am wanting it now to stand up a little bit. Now I could have stuck my collage, because this is, you know, quite flimsy paper. I'm not too worried, it's just going in the book. But if you wanted it to be a bit more substantial, you could stick your collage onto a thin piece of card and then cut out the image with the card as well, just to give you a little bit more of an ephemera feel. But I am going to use, this is the glue I get asked about this more than anything. This is Pinflair Glue Gel. You can get other versions. It's a dimensional, silicone-free glue. That is the reason why I use this, because I can't cope with the smell of silicone glue. I have a bit of a sensitive nose and silicone glue, I can't work with it. It makes me feel ill. So it says odorless. This is how sensitive my smell is. I can still smell it. I know other people can smell a smell, but it's nowhere near what silicone glue is. So it takes about, you get, I think that's the key from the Collage glue gel. You can use it straight from the tube, or you put it into like a syringe so you get a little bit more precision. It does dry up. Oh, this one I only put in yesterday, so it hasn't. But it often will dry up just in this little bit. You just need to pull that out and then the rest should be okay. But it gives you a bit of dimension, and also it dries very, very strong. But it does take a little bit of time. So if you're wanting something that's drying instantly, this isn't your glue. If you want something that's going to dry with a little bit of more dimension, it's going to go over things like your texture and is going to be very, very strong in the long term, then this is a really good one. Also, because it doesn't dry straight away, it means that if you're doing anything where you're layering things up, you get time to move things, stick them under. The only thing I would say is try not to ever sort of get it on. It is very, very gloopy. I find it, if I have before now had like I think once I've had an accident where I was putting it in the syringe, got it all over. It was a nightmare to get off, but you know, I got it off obviously, because otherwise my hands would be glued together, wouldn't they now? But but it is one that you want to just like be a little bit aware of. Now I like that because now I've got that sort of frame, and I'm liking that I've got a really industrial grungy sort of background and then a really pretty sort of image. Now if I was bothered, which I'm not particularly, but I'm going to add them anyway, if I was bothered about the fact it now has no antenna, I could, you know, just add something in, just to, if it, you know, if it was something that you wanted to put back in there, you know, that's what you could, you know, never worry about cutting bits off or anything like that. If you've got a black fine liner pen, or any sort of pen really, but I like black fine liners because they're generally waterproof and permanent. Oops, that was a bit gluey and I've just stuck my finger in there after telling people not to do that. You know, you can just add things back in. But I do need a sentiment, and I'm thinking, now I'm nearly out of some of these now. These are the small talk. I keep saying I need to buy another book and I keep forgetting. You can see how long I've had these. You get these fabulous sentiments. You get your black writing on your white background, which you can see is the ones I have a lot more of. And then you get your white writing on your black background, which you can see I use the most, and this is why I need some more. So the trouble is what do we have? We do more of what you love there. So let's have creativity takes courage. Now these are sticky. Mine are quite old, so you know they are not going to be as sticky as others anyway, but I always tend to glue these down. I'm going to add a little bit of this, just also so I can raise it up. Now, how much you want to raise things up obviously would depend on how much bulk you want. If it's in an art journal, how much bulk you want. I don't mind. I tend to just stick a band or something around my things, and I'm quite happy to have them, you know, be as bulky as they like. But if you don't want the bulk, then, you know, just be aware you might want to stick things down flatter. You might want to use more things that are like this, where they're going to keep flat. You might not want to be putting texture paste in. So those are things to be aware of, you know, as well, when you are doing your pages or your projects, is how much bulk you actually want. Now I'm going to add, I think he needs something behind him. Now I can either get a little bit of gauze, maybe. Sometimes this is another thing. Cheesecloth, you can buy this super cheap in places, you know. I'm going to say something controversial now. Well, I don't think it's controversial, but a lot of craft companies will sell you things. I believe in the craft industry. I believe in the art industry. I buy a lot of stuff, but I do draw the line at buying things that I know are available cheaper in the real world that are just bumped up prices because they've been marketed as craft items. Now, cheesecloth is one of them. You can pick cheesecloth up and gauze up cheap. You do not need to buy one that a company has especially, you know, marketed as being a specific name or being a specific product. That's all I'm going to say. Now you can colour this. Oh, that's too much. That is way too much. See what I mean? You only need a little, goes a long way. You can colour this with, you can spritz your inks on it. You can put your pigment powders on it. You could probably stick an acrylic marker over it and just colour it. Anything, your ink pads, you can colour it whatever you like. I'm going to leave it white just for sort of just drying time really, because I don't want to be sort of waiting ages for it to dry, because you can then heat it with the heat tool, but I think it's probably got some sort of acrylic or plastic in it somewhere, and it does start to sort of scrinkle up, is that a word? Crinkle up, you know, and become more sort of it melts, I think. Is that the word I'm trying to think of? It does start to melt a little bit. I'm going to put him there. And again, I'm going to use my glue gel again because I like to have a bit of... Now, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to stick that down. What I'm going to do is a bit of dimension and a bit of... I'm finishing off a sentence I just started, and then I started another sentence and then went back to that. I'm turning it into my husband. Now, if you don't always have to put your glue everything down. If I glue that, because that's, you know, got loads of little holes in it, that glue's squishing through and it's going to hold it in place. And I quite like a little bit of lift in there. Now, he does look a little bit like he is floating in midair, so this is when I would get something like a pen, or let's just get a distress crayon because it's here. Let's lift him up and put a bit there. Now I could water that out. You don't have to water products out all the time. You can just use it like that, and now it looks like he's got something to stand on. I like that. That makes me happy. I'm just trying to think, what do we want to put as his sentiment? Let's have a look at what else we've got. I have got so many different sentiment things. I've got all these ones from Lemon Creation. Let's just grab this one. Now I've done white on black. I've done gold on black. Let's do a black on white. Maybe not show me the Milky Way. What we got? No, I don't like the font. I also do take note of font. I do quite like a typewriter font with things. Find Your Fire. Mindset is everything, because he does look very determined. I'm going to go with Mind. Oh no, that's still that sort of very modern font. Oh no. This is the trouble. See, I now have to make decisions. Decisions are sometimes hard. Heart full of unsaid things. I like that. Heart full of unsaid things. Now I like that these have got a little bit of a border around them already with the printing. So I can use that as an extra, sort of looks like a bit like a matte layer. And let's get rid of them bits. What's that there? That's another bit I've cut off at some point. And I don't worry so much when I'm cutting things. I used to really worry about... oh, I wonder if I can have it underneath. Oh, underneath the cheesecloth. That's quite cool. I quite like it there. I don't think I like it at the top. I think I like it at the bottom. Yeah, I did used to really have to have everything really straight. looking for the glue. But now I don't worry so much. And if you've got lines already on it, it means that it doesn't actually notice as much. I do quite like that underneath because you can still see it because, you know, you've got the holes in the gauze. And I want it to be, I want it a bit down because I don't want it over that. I want to see that line there. There we go. I like that. Like I said, you could add a little bit of colouring on there if you wanted. You could add a little bit of highlights with your things like your acrylic pens and things like that. But I think I'm just going to leave them like that because I think being in those like neutral tones goes well against that background. So, you know, unless I'm going to then tone in what he's wearing, then I would be having to sort of think about the colours. So let's put those down there. So the final one, I have got a stamp set. Now this is by Asha Marquet, so this is one she designed for Indigo Blue. And I thought, just to show you, you don't have to be representative. You don't have to have a person or a butterfly. You can just have shapes. You know, you could just stick a sentiment on there if you wanted. You don't have to put a sentiment on. I personally like to put sentiments on, but I am quite liking just the idea. Ooh, which one do I want? I've got two. I've got this smaller little collection. And because I've got the circles, I'm thinking just this with the geometric, and I've got lines, it would go quite nice. So I've either got a smaller one or a big one, or both. I could have two on there. Let's stamp them both out and then let's find out. So let's put that there. I'm going to go with, oh, excuse me. I'm going to get some watercolour cardstock because I could have had a smaller bit than that, but that was the bit that came out. Watercolour cardstock because I've got mostly water reactive products, so that makes it easier. Let's go with my good old Archival. I could go, oh, or I could go Versafine Clair. Let's go with Archival because Archival is a waterproof ink, and it's some people prefer Versafine Clair, some people prefer Archival. I prefer Archival because it dries quicker. I'm going to do it in the corner because I don't want to waste a massive bit of card, do I? There's that one. And let's take that off. I don't worry too much about cleaning my stamps if it's Archival. If it's a one that I know is going to stay wet, I will wipe it off. But let's put that one there. And while I'm here, let's use the words off here to be our sentence. So we've got B. Oh, have I lost the B? Oh, I've lost the B. I haven't lost the B. It's probably in the drawer with the stamps. So let's have grow, because I can't just have different. Grow different. Different grow. Let's just have grow. Because you don't have to have, you know, loads and loads of words. You don't have to have full sentences. You can have. You could also write on your projects if you don't have sentiments and words and things, or if you've got a computer, you can type up your own sayings and phrases and you know, little things that maybe mean something to you. That's another thing you can do. Now these are not going to, oops, I'll cut that off. I'm not going to be able to cut them out precisely because they are like what am I trying to say? Who knows? They're very random shapes. They're not like a solid shape you can cut out as a solid. So I'm leaving a bit of a border around them, and then we'll just add a bit of colour to match in with the background, and then we'll see what that looks like. Now I could have done white ink on a black cardstock. That might look quite nice, but I think I want to have a little bit of colour. I'm not sure. Now this is in two sections, so I think what I would probably do with this is cut this one out like this. Oops. My borders are all over the place when I cut things out. I'm going to just say, you know, I'm not you know, I'm not trying to be what am I not trying to be? I don't know. I'm not trying to be perfect, I think is the word I was looking for. You know, was it Dina Wakley always says done is better than perfect. Sometimes you just have to, you just have to get on and do rather than worry about perfection, because otherwise you would probably quite a lot of the time not get stuff done. Sort of like playing with them over there. I don't know if you can even see that because I can't, because my camera's on my phone and it's up there and I can't really see. I sort of have a vague idea that I'm in the right place. Right, let's just do, again, we'll just do it like this. And if I do wonky lines, I do wonky lines. I don't care. In fact, sometimes do wonky lines on purpose. That way you can say it's a style choice. Not, I couldn't cut straight. Right, let's put that back there. I'm just going to stand up and just check that I have got it still in a... Oh, yes. See. There we go. Right, put my scissors away. Put that back up there. Put those over there. Put that in there. I don't need to tell you I'm putting the things away, do I? All right. Right, now I am going to, I think... I don't know. I'm going to colour them. I'm going to move this again now, aren't I? So let's just move that to there. Let's go with, what have we got? See what I've got right in, not in front of me, but right next to me. I've got my distress crayons. So let's go with a bit of, not that, I meant to pick out pink and the yellow came out. So I've got a pink. We want a purple. There we go. And we'll have a blue. What's that one? Faded jeans. Do like a bit of faded jeans. And we've got some water. And we don't need anything too precise. Let's have this one. Right, I'm going to just take the colour from the actual tip of the pencil. Ooh. Rather than, you can scribble these on. These are a woodless pencil, so you can actually, this is just like a plasticky paper wrap thing that's just to stop it from getting on your hands really. So you can dip these in water to use, so you haven't got to worry, not so much as, you know, ones that have a wood casing around them. So let's do a bit of pink on them. Let's have a bit of purple. So have that bit, oops. They do take a little bit of activating. If you hear someone coming in, that will be someone coming in. Trying to be quiet, I think. So just go with a really sketchy look, because that background is quite a sort of abstracty, sketchy look to it. So let's go, oops. Normally I have also a little bit of kitchen towel just to take some of the water off, just to, because sometimes when you watercolour you get a bit too much water. That one, let's have that there as well. A bit on there, like that. And then we will finish off this one with a bit of this, that there. Now one thing I would say about these pencils is the same with all these sort of pigment sticks. Once they're wet, I tend to then leave them somewhere to try and dry out a bit before I pop them back in with all the others, because they do have a tendency when they're wet obviously to transfer colour. So let's just pop them on that little dish there so they can dry. Now we can add, oh yes, see now they're coloured, I like that better. Right, and don't leave your brush in your water. I'm being very, very good with my watercolour brushes. I rinse them, then I just dry them back into shape, and then I put them on the things to dry out before I pop them back into the thingy. Now if you want to border around this but you don't want to add extra bulk, again just get your pen or something like that and just put a line around it, get all your ink and just ink. Sometimes if you just grab your ink pad, this is something I do quite often, just, sorry about the noise if you don't like that noise, just on the edges like that. It gives it the look of having an extra layer, but it hasn't given you the bulk, and it just helps, you know, raise that again up amongst everything else. Now these ones, I think I'm going to stick these flat because they are, you know, totally abstract sort of shapes. You can have them however you want, so you can have them, ooh, maybe a bit of overlapping. Oh, quite like that, but then I'm going back onto that side again. Maybe I should have them in the middle. Let's have them in the middle, perhaps. Should we do them in the middle, like that? Yes. Now I'm going to go with my white glue. I'm going to go with the Indigo Blue Grab and Go because I know this one is going to work. Let's just pull that bit off the top. Stick that one down first because I know that was the one in the background. So I tend to use either Cosmic Shimmer or Indigo Blue, but any, you know, of your white PVA style acrylic glues are fine. I've put probably way too much glue on there and hopefully it won't squidge out. Most of these glues do sort of dry clear, and often they also dry matte, not glossy, so you might want, if you know that you are prone to, you know, getting your glue sort of squidged out, then that is something to maybe look out for. But or the other thing you can do is like not maybe put so much towards the edges, or put a bit in the middle. You know, if you don't have to use your fingers. You know, if it's something you might have a sensitivity to things, then obviously don't do that. Or you could wear gloves or use some sort of tool like these sorts of things. These are cheap in the cheapy shop. But you know, so you don't have to stick your fingers in. I just find you know, because I don't tend to get reactions, that it's just a quick way for me to do it. Now if I wanted to, I could add again some like thread or something under that, but because I've got two where I've sort of had that effect, I don't want to do that on all of them. I just want to give you some different ideas for things you can use and ways you can add focal points. So there we go, just that there. Quite an abstract one, so you can, you know, they don't have to be full-on focal points to your pages or your projects. You can just have like this one where there's just a few little stars and a sentiment. You don't have to have representational things. You can have something that's quite abstract if that's what you want to have, and you know, so you go with whatever you want to do. So thank you ever so much. If you have stuck through all 3 videos, I really appreciate it, and I hope it's been useful. Please do let me know if you've gone through the process and completed some art journal pages or some projects, because that's the other thing. This doesn't have to be an art journal page. That's what I like to do. That could be on a card. That could be happy birthday. Same as this. Same as this. Same as this. You know, you could cut them down. They could be on cards. You could have done it straight onto a card, a piece of card to go on a card base. They don't have to be art journal pages. So that's the other thing, as well as, you know, looking at the products that come from different areas of art and craft. Also look at ideas from, if you're an art journaler, look at card making ideas. You can get ideas from that, and vice versa. And you know, scrapbooking layouts, the way people have laid that out can make a good journal page. Like cross-pollinate across all the different things, because nothing is like one little area. You know, everything should be being viewed as a whole. It's all art, it's all craft, you know, it's all creativity, and that's the important thing. So thank you very much. If you have enjoyed, do please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I would love it if you could give that a little click. You can turn on notifications. There is a little bell apparently that then notifies you when a video goes up, but I tend to put videos up the same days every week. So again, until the next time, bye-bye.